Welcome viewers to this third lecture on Budhan. So far we've already had two lectures on this play titled Budhan by a group called Denotified Charas. It is a denotified and nomadic tribe, a DNT. Now, in the first two lectures we discussed certain aspects of the term tribe, and we also discussed the implications, the formation and the implications of the term DNT, that is denotified and nomadic tribes. Now this play is written by, in fact we will be discussing the authorship, so it's been written by Lakshman Bajrangi and it's been translated by Sonal Bakshi, but the play on the whole is a collective effort of the Chara tribe. So the play Budhan is actually based on a real person by the name of Budhan Sabar, and it's very interesting because this particular incident, the killing of Budhan Sabar, led to an entire movement. So Budhan Sabar belonged to the Purulia district in West Bengal and he was killed in 1998. The Sabar Welfare Samiti, with the help of activists and people who'd been working with the tribes, so especially with the help of Mahashweta Devi, went into the details of the case and asked for a post-mortem, and after the post-mortem it was revealed that Budhan had actually died of torture while in police custody. Now this was also a watershed moment. As I said, this has led to a lot of discussions around the conditions of the DNTs. So in fact, around this time, Mahashweta Devi's speech on the denotified and nomadic tribes led to the formation of a DNT rights action group, and Ganesh Devi and Lakshman Gaikwad were members, and Devi then started a journal called Budhan. So in May of that year, as G.N. Devi tells us in the introduction to this play that is part of a collection called Painted Words. So in May of that year, he says how they visited Charanagar, Ahmedabad. Charanagar is in Ahmedabad, and it is a ghetto of the Chara DNTs. And they set up a library of revolutionary and cultural literature, which meant that there was an effort to engage with and concretize the knowledge of the DNTs, while at the same time also exchanging knowledge with the tribal community. As Devi tells us that the play had made a very deep impact on people who had watched the play, and the group had performed it in different venues. So as mentioned, the play was written by Dakshin Bajrangi and translated by Sonal Bakshi, but in the words of G.N. Devi, it can truly be said to come from the oral tradition of tribal theatre. It is not an imaginary perception of suffering, but it is based on the lived, traumatic experience of being branded a criminal. To understand the nuances of this particular statement by G.N. Devi, viewers, it is very important that you also keep in mind the first two lectures, especially the lecture on the branding of a certain tribe, the branding of certain communities as criminal tribes, and of course their subsequent denotification in the post-independence period. The first scene begins with the narrator addressing the audience. Now, in this particular lecture, we are going to be discussing in detail the play which actually comprises of 15 scenes. These are 15 broadly 15 short scenes, only one or two scenes that are longer than the rest, and this play needs to be understood at two levels. One, keeping the context of the DNTs in mind, it is important to see how this play by the Chara community draws attention to the condition, the plight, to the branding of the members of a particular tribe. But at the same time, this play also should be looked at in terms of its aesthetics, the aesthetics of drama, that is, and this is something that we will be taking up also in the next lecture. So in this lecture, we will focus on the different aspects of the scene and different scenes in this play, and look at the kind of themes and ideas that are evoked in Budhan. So the first scene begins with the figure of a narrator who addresses the audience, and the narrator lists the details of what it really means to be a D&T. The narrator gives you a kind of number, total number, and says that there are about 6 crore people who have been branded as D&T. So if there are so many people who have been branded, who have been categorized as a denotified, as members of a denotified tribe, what, really speaking, is their life all about? We need to ask questions about how, in the 21st century, how is it that these people are living their lives and what it really means to be a D&T. And the play Budhan draws attention precisely to this aspect. So, again, this is a quotation from the play, and we have the narrator who immediately explains this idea. And one of the important aspects of Budhan as a play that you need to keep in mind is that the characters, the actors, when they are in their character and when they are outside of their character, because they are present on stage in 2 ways. 1, the role that they are performing, and 2, as actors. They are ever conscious of the role they are performing, but they are even more conscious of the fact that they are present on stage as actors. And so they communicate directly with the audience. And in one of these communications, as the narrator says, for reasons unknown to anybody, we are singled out for bearing a burden. We are the D&Ts or Adivasis, people belonging to ancient times. We have witnessed the changes taking place on earth for millennia. We live amidst nature. We are born in the womb of nature and we die in the lap of nature. Or we are killed. We once owned the jungles, but today we have to fight for our rights to the same forests. Viewers, please note how some of these aspects that have been highlighted by the narrator, aspects that explain what it really speaking means to belong to the D&T, what it means to be an Adivasi. So, the narrator lists a lot of these aspects, and these are aspects that we have already covered in a sense in our first and second lecture. But to highlight this point, the deep connect with nature, to be born in the womb of nature and to die in the lap of nature. So, one of the things that is so very important to the D&Ts is the fact that they remain connected with nature. The narrator points out with pain how, at times these people are killed, and says that we once owned the jungles, but today we have to fight for our rights to the same forests, which also means that the natural habitat, in a sense, of the D&T, of people from different tribes, remains the jungle. The narrator then explains how members of the Lodha community were drowned in 1979. So, what this scene does is it also presents, in a sense, it historicizes, it gives you a very, very brief idea about the history of torture that the D&Ts have had to face, and then presents the story from the Budhan community. So, the characters playing specific roles introduce, in a sense, the play itself to the audience, not while they are in character, but as actors, they communicate directly with the audience. The story of Akarbed, a small village in West Bengal, is being discussed, and the question is regarding the freedom of the D&Ts, and this question is posed right at the beginning of this play. Please, if you take a look at this quotation, how the narrator explains how even after more than 50 years, the British stigma of criminality by birth continues to be attached to the D&Ts, because the fact that the, the members of a particular tribe are denotified is itself an indicator that at one point these members were part of a tribe that was categorized as criminal, which is why the play begins by presenting this contradiction and explaining to the viewers how this categorization that was started by the Britishers in India, so the British stigma of criminality by birth continues to be attached to the DNTs. Now, as mentioned, there are 15 short scenes, and we will look at some of the important ideas that are introduced in each of these scenes. So, in the second scene, the play begins with Budhan and Shyamali. They are shown to be a very ordinary couple stopping by at a pan shop to have a pan. That's betel leaf. Now, Shyamali is seen as shy, and Budhan is, he's seen as considerate. He pays a lot of attention to her, and just as he's about to pay the money to the shopkeeper, we have Inspector Ashok Roy, who is looking out for a subber who he can penalize for a particular crime. So when Budhan asks about the nature of his crime, Inspector Ashok Roy responds by saying that your greatest crime is that you dared to question the law. And so he says that come without any arguments to the station, or you shall be paraded naked through the market. Now, this is of course not an empty threat, and the suburbs could be treated in the most inhumane manner by the powerful forces. And in a book edited by Sudhanva Deshpande, Sabdar Rashmi explains this idea that the two characters who are most often ridiculed in folk theatre, one is of course the religious priest, and the second is the kotwal, the policeman or the officer. And Sabdar Rashmi says that it is a 20th century phenomena that's born of the specific needs of the working people living under capitalist and feudal exploitation, which means that we are looking at two kinds of systems that are constantly at work, even in the 20th century, because the play is a late 20th century play. So, one is of course the whole system of capitalism and the way in which it marginalizes people, pushes them to the margins as they are not part of that whole system of development, of profit making. At the same time, the feudal system continues to operate, and which is why this kind of a categorization is something that is disturbing at both these levels. So, people who are on the margins, for instance DNTs in this case, are marginalized at both levels. I mean, one of course at the hands of a system that is capitalist, and the second is of course feudal. So, the play displays the ruthless impact of unrestrained power on these people and the way in which it devastates the lives of people who belong to the denotified tribes. So, if we move on to scene 3, the actors playing Shyamali and Budhan actually remark on the tendencies of the characters themselves. So, the actor playing Shyamali states that Shyamali is an innocent woman, and the actor playing Budhan comments on the lawlessness of this act and says, and I quote, Budhan was not even told his crime before he was arrested. So, he doesn't know why he's being arrested. And if you look at it, this whole idea of being branded criminal, Budhan is being arrested because he belongs to the suburb community, and in any case Ashok Roy is looking for somebody whom he can penalize. So, the actor playing the role of Inspector Ashok Roy states, killing suburbs was just an enjoyable game for Officer Roy. Now, it's interesting how the actor who's playing this particular role, that is the role of Ashok Roy, is commenting, is in fact very is making a very sharp comment about Officer Roy. So, and we need to think at the level of performance what really is the purpose of this strategy, and what it is that the playwright achieves by breaking the sequence of the plot through the comments of the actors on various characters. And here I would like to bring in the German theatre practitioner, theorist and theatre practitioner Bertolt Brecht, who writes in a short organum for the theatre and I'm quoting from there, in order to produce A effects, the actor has to discard whatever means he has learned of getting the audience to identify itself with the characters which he plays. Aiming not to put his audience into a trance, he must not go into a trance himself. Quotes close. So, what are these A effects? What are these alienation effects? Now, what we just did, this idea of the actor commenting on the role that he or she is performing, the actor commenting and even criticizing the role that the actor is performing, is what is called an alienation technique, because it allows the viewers to look at the actors as actors and not simply as the roles that they are performing. So, and it's important, this is also a way in which the actor who himself or herself is performing is also able to distance herself in a sense from the role. So, this kind of a technique also has an important impact on the audience. It allows the audience to think freely about the characters and their performance. The audience is not expected to, kind of wallow in emotion, get swayed, but instead their fierce emotions are stalled as they get a breather to think objectively and to absorb the actor's comments on the play. The actors too do not fall into a trance by getting into what is called the skin of the character. They present objectively the roles that they are performing, and this in a sense promotes a freer interaction between the actors and the audience. Now, this of course is very different from the very basic aspects of naturalistic theatre that would probably present a realistic set for the police station on stage. The entire play is very experimental, takes on more from the Brechtian style. He makes use of what Bertolt Brecht has called epic theatre. For example, it's not going to be a real-time police station. The actors get together and they form the police station. So, this indicates that the authenticity of the view is not the issue here, but the idea is to understand the meaning. The meaning should be conveyed, because the focus remains not on what the scene is looking like. The focus has to be on the DNTs. So, this is in a sense, the third scene is very different from the scenes that have gone on before it. But the plot sequence is then resumed in the fourth scene, and actors who had earlier commented on the inspector now resume their roles. So, the inspector, the constable, they compel Budhan to accept responsibility for thefts in the area, about 17 thefts in the area. But he pleads that he is just a simple basket maker. And what is his job? He just makes these baskets and he sells them to the cooperative. So, look at how just because he belongs to the Sabar community, a Sabar tribe that has been categorized as a DNT. So, this allows the system to really speaking work against him, and he becomes an easy prey for the people who want to arrest him and put him behind bars. So, as discussed, the DNTs also try to rehabilitate themselves as they are under constant surveillance. So, even as Shyamali continues to plead to the police, no one pays heed, and in fact Budhan is they kind of torture him because and continue to refer to him as a Sabar and a thief. So, note how these two words are being used together and how there is also use of physical violence as he is pressurized to confess. And they state the police are thirsty for the blood of the Sabars, and who will make them understand that we too are Indians and that we too belong to this society. So, this is a crucial issue that the play highlights time and again. When we move on to the other scenes, we see, for example, how the date itself is actually botched up in this particular incident, and how his arrest is on 10th of February, but the date is changed. Budhan Sabar's date of arrest is botched up and is mentioned as 11th instead of 10th. His serial number is not the regular serial number, and he's, in the play, he is, there is physical torture. So, modifying the structure of the scenes, when we look at other scenes, for example, if we look at scene 6, it begins with the actor's comments on stage events. The actor playing the constable conveys information about Budhan's torture, and the actor playing Shyamali informs the audience about another Sabar youth, that is Sridhar. And Sridhar, who is also being, he's beaten up while he's behind the bars, but he is also a Sabar, and he reaches out to Budhan, and he is absolutely appalled at seeing Budhan's condition. So, moving on further, we see how the 8th scene is once again in the commentary mode. The actors point out the discrepancy between the police and the legal system. And for instance, the court order that in the play, the court order that Budhan be taken into remand, but he was already in remand. So, where Sridhar is released on bail and taken to the Purulia jail, Budhan is punished and sent there. So, as the actors form, the Purulia prison, the audience realizes that they are looking at a new aesthetics in drama. In the 9th scene, the 9th scene once again takes us through the stigma that is attached to the Sabars, and how in the Purulia jail, the superintendent has very little sympathy, the assistant superintendent has very little sympathy for Budhan's condition. In fact, so much so that he is asked to clean the entire prison. Now, by this time, Budhan is somebody who can hardly move, but despite his inability, he is asked to kind of sweep the entire prison. And he is, of course, meant to realize, in the words of the superintendent, the value of hard work. So, Budhan's fear and Sridhar's efforts at helping him, are the highlights of the next scene, that's scene 10. And in the dark cell, Sridhar tries to console Budhan, and this consolation is only momentary. And as he leaves, Budhan is, of course, very scared, he's lonely. So, we see the use of a term that's a kind of terror that is used to kind of put pressure on Budhan. And in this situation, he thinks about his children, but again, thoughts of his family, they pull him on, they provide succor, but he is haunted by the kind of atrocities that are being inflicted on him. And there is tremendous pain, but please notice, this pain is not conveyed for anybody to be in a trance. The pain is not conveyed in a way that it only evokes sympathy, but the pain is conveyed objectively so that the viewers should think about why is it that all this is happening to Budhan. And in the play, when he says, please don't hurt me, I have done nothing at all, and he says that he has not committed any theft. So, this is in a sense a very dark scene in the play, and its impact is effectively intensified by the chorus that starts moving around Budhan and keeps chanting loudly that Budhan is a thief and accept your crime, beat the scoundrel, and so on and so forth. So, the chorus here in this case represents the oppressive forces. It's interesting to note that normally the chorus is seen to be an objective voice that provides you with another point of view to what is happening in the play. Now, in this case, the chorus, however, represents both sides. At times, for the major part of the play, the oppressive forces that succeed in finally breaking Budhan's spirit and, he dies. The total silence on stage indicates Budhan's death. As one moves into the later scenes, 2 or 3 very important ideas. One, of course, that, the information is conveyed of Budhan's death while in custody is conveyed to Inspector Roy, and they decide, both people decide to, the Bara Bazar police station and the Purulia jail, they decide to call it an act of suicide. Another character who then comes in is Ashish, a member of the Kheria Sabar Kalyan Samiti, who conveys Mahashweta Devi's message that Budhan's body should not be cremated at any cost. And it is only with the post-mortem that it is the reality is revealed. In all of this, Shyamali's speech is also heart-wrenching. Now, scene 13 then expresses the anxieties of the people of the village who demand a probe into the Budhan case, as they believe firmly that he had died while in custody. By this time, the date has shifted and it's 21st of July 1998. The 14th scene is very interesting because there is a complete court verdict here. The verdict that suspended all the police officers involved, and so this verdict is repeated here, and highlighting the suspension of the officers involved, and the scene ends with Budhan demanding to know his crime, because he had gone very simply to eat a pan and had eventually lost his life. He says, "Finally, tell me, what was my crime? Why was I killed? I was only eating a pan. Is even eating a pan a crime for us? My wife is now a widow, my son is orphaned. What will happen to them now that I'm gone? Did my crime lie in the fact that I was a sabbar, a DNT?" So, this is an important point to be kept in mind, because the play indicates how Budhan's spirit is now speaking to the audience and he's articulating his position. So, the entire community of DNTs begin to cry, and the final scene is the scene in which the actors come forward and pose simple questions to the audience about if a DNT commits a crime, is the punishment death? They talk about different scams and raise the question, are we second-class citizens? And they say, we need respect. This idea of respect is very important. The play recreates the real life case of Budhan Sabbar and raise questions not only about the case and its final resolution, but about the conditions of the DNTs. And so, by citing a lot of incidents, they indicate the kind of turmoil that is there around, and they emphasize, they reiterate how they are not in asking, are we second-class citizens? They are actually saying that we too are citizens of this country, and they say we need respect. The play ends with the human change raising their hands. Now, this human chain that raises its hands is, it also emphasizes the need, for humanity in a sense. So, if we actually look at some of these ideas, we see the play is very simple at the level of language, uses a direct style to reach out and inform the people of the truth regarding the Budhan case, and because it is a case about a man from the Sabbar community. The play, runs in a style parallel to that of Dario Fo, as it provides us with counter information. But the play also allows a suppressed voice to surface and make a claim for justice. The play also reflects on the cruel practice of actually criminalizing the DNTs. So, the play has to be looked at also in terms of the structure, and in the next lecture we are going to focus on this. Milind Bokil, in his discussion of the DNTs, mentions how it is important that we have to ask who are the people who continue to see groups of people as criminal, and what about the larger state of things. It's important to prevent this kind of a marginalization of the DNTs by the forces that be. So, the appeal at the end of the play then is an appeal for respect, is an appeal to understand the denotified tribes at par, at the same level, on the same parameters as everybody else. So, the play also introduces us, as mentioned earlier, to a new aesthetics in theatre, and we will be discussing that soon enough. So, if we look at, to conclude, the important aspects that this play raises is first and foremost about the real life case of Budhan, secondly about the way in which the DNTs are being treated, and thirdly how this is also, the performance itself is a way of expression, is a way of deriving strength, and that is very, very important in understanding the play and its comment on the life of the DNTs. Thank you.